Jean Edwards is a visionary. She is a trailblazer. She was using language 40 years ago that we're only now starting to finally adopt in our field. It's taken us 40 years to catch up to Jean Edwards.
Edwards Center was birthed because of a childhood friendship that I had with a young man by the name of David Dawson. David and I were born in an era when there were no services for young people with developmental disabilities. But as David and I became friends and I took him to do things with me, I noticed how other people treated him very differently. I began to see how people with disabilities were so disenfranchised. And that's where my heart began to take hold. And that's where my purpose in life was birthed too. I went on to the University of Oregon, trained to work with special needs people, eventually got a master's degree there and went on to do doctoral work at Columbia University. And it was while I was at Columbia that I went to Scandinavia to view a new and emerging concept there called normalization. All normalization is recreating the same patterns and conditions of everyday life for people with disabilities that those of us without them experience. We get up every day, we get dressed, we go to work or to school or to recreational activities. But what was happening when David and I were young, those things didn't happen. And by the time they were 12, 13 years of age, doctors were recommending institutionalization. So in the 40s, 50s, and 60s here in Oregon, we institutionalized a lot of people. While I was a student at the University of Oregon, I did some volunteer work at Fairview Hospital and Training Center in Salem. Some really bad things were happening in institutions, and they were deplorable. And I knew I did not want my friend David to be living someday in a place like that. So I made a personal commitment that I was going to be a part of that change. So while I was in Scandinavia, one night I was staying in a dormitory in Sweden. I went down to the kitchen and I got a piece of butcher paper from the cooks. And I took it back to my room and I laid it out on the bed. And I dreamed a big, audacious dream. And that dream is what we see here at the Edwards Center today. We wanted to be the parents' answer to their greatest fear. What's going to happen when I'm gone? If you've been raising a child with a disability, that's your biggest fear. You're not going to always be here. And so we envisioned building over time a community of residential options and vocational services and recreational services that would meet the lifelong needs. Yeah, back in the 70s when we started, we called it the Lifespan Plan. So we opened our first group home in 1975, and we brought back 10 young people to their home community. Their families had been forced to institutionalize them because there were no services. One of the mothers said to me, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven because she was so relieved. It was so painful for her to go and visit her child in the institution. So coming to live in one of our group homes, committed to normalization, was like dying and going to heaven. Our vision for a normalized life for those who reside with us at Edwards Center includes some real core values, and one of them is integration, being a part of the community, a normalized life, a normal routine to life, rich and active community experiences, those core values, that integration and meaningful work, meaningful recreation, meaningful socialization are really key to us here at Edwards Center. We make a promise that no other organization that I know of makes. We promise a family, once we accept their child into our program, a residential program, that we will care for them for the rest of their life. And that's really important because they're going to lose their parents probably before they die. And their parents want to go to their grave knowing who's taking care of their child and that they're going to always be taken care of.
I knew that Edwards Center was going to have to be a part of my future. It was a tour that Jean Edwards took me on. She toured me with some of our programs. As I got talking to parents who lived in homes with their adult children, and they talked about aging in place and keeping the family intact and together, I was trying to figure out how that fit with the state's model. And I asked Jean how she got it licensed, and she said, well, we didn't. And I said, well, if it's not a licensed program, how do you get it funded? And she said, Alan, it's not about the funding, it's about the families. That comment made me know I had to become a part of Edwards Center.
So we were a grassroots organization. I wrote a lot of grants, I knocked on a lot of doors. While we received some state funds towards services, it in no way covers the cost of services. So we need to raise $800 to $1 million a year in external donations to provide the quality of services that we do.
We're a team of more than 200 employees who support more than 300 people in services with the help and partnership of innumerable family members. We are a community of people committed to the same mission and the same outcome. That's what makes Edwards Center successful.
Some people say, you know, at 77 years of age, why do I get up every day and come to Edwards Center? Well, it's because it's my purpose. It's my reason for living. It's living out the vision of Edwards Center. The theme of coming home is very meaningful because those first 10 residents that came back from the institution, they were coming home. This was the community they'd been born in. This was their birthplace, and they'd been institutionalized. And now they were coming home to their forever family.